It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In sports, the scoreboard doesn't tell the full story, but Netflix does. Stories about dads who happen to be world-class quarterbacks and a battle for the heart, soul, and direction of the multi-billion-dollar business of F1. Whether you're a diehard fan or you're brand new, Netflix has the stories for every type of fan. You can watch these incredible sports stories like Quarterback, F1 Drive to Survive, Untold, and many more now on Netflix.
Hockey heads, fantasy fanatics, and degenerate gamblers, welcome back inside the lab to the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast and the Tuesday episode, taking a look at what's going on with Jack Hughes. We missed the boat a little bit yesterday, but back, baby, in a big way to break down what's happening with the best player in the league right now, Frederick Andersen, Carolina Hurricanes goaltending carousel, and big-time bets. Thank you for joining us. Let's tap in.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, everybody? And thank you so much for joining us for the Tuesday edition of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. And thank you for making us your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's 150 bones if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. My friends, Steele, hockey heads, everyone around, it's a good time to be watching hockey. And honestly, Steele, I've been really enjoying the action to start this season. Very exciting pace to a lot of these games. And one of the most exciting players pushing that pace has been Jack Hughes. We're going to talk about it. We meant to mention it yesterday. You and I got all fired up on waiver wire ads. We overlooked it a little bit, but we're not overlooking the importance and significance of this injury. We'll kick off the episode with Jack Hughes. But Freddie Andersen suffering now from, I straight up will talk about this, Steele. I feel bad for this goaltender. Seemingly just another situation for him having to deal with his health. Sounds like it could be somewhat serious with blood clots. We'll break down what that means for the Hurricanes. And, of course, we're paying what you know we do with the money in your pocketbook with big-time bets. Tuesday, rolling out the door, juicy 10-game board, Steele. I want to do what we do on this show. I want to turn it right over to you after I've opened up and flapped the gums a bunch. Jack Hughes, I think he got lucky on that play. It looked like it could have been a lot worse. I'm hearing it's hand, it's upper body. It's going to be week to week, though. So this is a significant injury, and we know this is a player that you and I have talked about. Staying in the lineup was one of the issues we've had with him to start his career.
Yeah, and, this is no fault to anyone. It's just one of those plays, a little bit of a toe pick. Goalie was going for a poke check as well. It's just very fast because he's one of the fastest players out there. Yes. Always using his feet and his edge work. It's just amazing to watch. And you're right, he did get lucky out there. Could have been a lot more serious than what happened. It's weird. I'm on Daily Faceoff right now. They have him listed under COVID-19. I think that's got to be some sort of mistake. It is an upper body injury, shoulder, head, could be a mixture, multiple injuries because of how fast and hard he went into those boards trying to break through the defensive there of the St. Louis Blues. But this is going to be tough for the New Jersey Devils. You really hope that a couple of their players can step up in the absence. They're not just missing Jack Hughes. They're also missing Nico Hischier as well. So down the middle is going to be a problem right now for the New Jersey Devils for at least the next week until one of these guys come back. But they've got Michael McLeod centering that top line of Toffoli and Jesper Bratt. Jesper Bratt's been amazing, but a lot of his production comes from Jack Hughes as well. So again, going back to guys who have really struggled so far, Dawson Mercer, needs to really, a guy that we talked about a lot last year who was really great the first 2 seasons, struggling right now. I believe he only has 1 point, 1 assist on the season.
I think he got a goal the other night when he did center that first line.
He did get a goal the other night. I think you're right there. So maybe he's up to 2 points, but still been a pretty bad start from Dawson Mercer. Timo Meyer's got 8 points on the season, but he's a -7, so he's got to get going a lot earlier into the game. So really guys just stepping up in the absence of probably their top 2 players in Nico Hischier and Jack Hughes right now. So that's what I'm looking at. I don't even know what the New Jersey Devils schedule looks like. I'll bring it up real quick. See what their couple next matchups or next week is looking like. They've got the Colorado Avalanche. They're on the road Tuesday night, so that could be a possibility for our big time bets. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. That one. It's actually they're kind of lucky. They're on a little bit of not a weaker schedule. They've got a light schedule moving forward for the next week. They only face the Avalanche on Tuesday and the Capitals on Friday, and then they're off until next Tuesday as well. So only 2 games this upcoming week.
Number 1, shout out Vitek Vanacek for holding this team down as well. Hischier and Hughes, Steele, these are their 2 most important pieces. Up front or otherwise. I know you could make an argument for Dougie Hamilton, but these are their 2 most important pieces. Their captain and clearly their number 1 star. This is the kind of thing that if it is prolonged and some of those secondary pieces, like you mentioned, the importance of them stepping up, do not step up, that Metro division is full of killers. And we're taking a look at the Metro today. We're going to talk about Carolina later in the show, of course. But this is one of those situations, Steele. Jack Hughes is off to that kind of special start, derailing it. I'm just talking in hypotheticals here. I hope he comes back sooner than later because I really do think 2 things can happen here. One, what I'm alluding to in that this really can affect their quality to get points in the win column. And number 2, it might throw off what would have been a very, very special season for Jack Hughes because also I'll say this about if it is a hand injury, sure, his conditioning and sure, his ability to step right in and skate will be there. But if he's not able to properly shoot the puck and practice stick handling, this will affect his ability to come back with confidence. So that's something else that you can't overlook when it comes to an injury of this nature.
That's a very good point as well, because we even saw this last year with Austin Matthews. I know he still went out and scored 40, but he was dealing with a wrist and hand injury pretty much the entire season, and he scored 40 easily. So that would be very, very, what's the word I'm looking for? That would be very interesting to see how Jack Hughes, if it is a hand injury, but the way he went into the boards.
I'm speculating. I think someone made mention of it. I don't know if it was Elliot Friedman or not. I thought it was a hand. It looked like he tried to brace himself. So maybe it's a forearm anyway. If it's one of those injuries that he's able to, condition and skate, that's usually much better. But when it comes to a finesse player like Jack Hughes, if he's not able to properly stick handle and practice and train shooting that puck, when it comes to the special pace that he was on, I'm just a little bit concerned if he's able to come back and continue at that pace. But if anyone's going to be able to do it, Steele, it's Jack Hughes. This Metro division, though, is not going to leave much room for error. We'll talk about the Carolina Hurricanes, another team in that Metro right after the break. And, of course, big-time bet, Steele. I want to get this money train flowing. You had a big week to finish it out last week. Hopefully we're starting hot this week as well. Today's episode, though, also hot because it's brought to you by our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line wager. That's 150 bones if your team wins. And if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, Steele, what are these people doing? You need to be downloading the app because there's no better time to get in on the action. Just like Steele and I were using it to bet on a wide range of betting options, including spreads, props, over-unders, and a whole lot more. We're loving the same game parlays as well, Steele. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
This is David Harrison of the Locked On Commanders podcast to draw your attention to the taste that's going down in the bread aisle. All thanks to Dave's Killer Bread, bread amplified. Anyone can bake bread, few can rock it, and Dave's Killer Bread is the champion of killer taste, killer texture, and is for those who want to rise above the boring. Organic and healthy doesn't have to mean boring when it's made with the highest quality organic and non-GMO ingredients, packed with whole grains, fiber, and protein. 21 whole grains and seeds bread has a subtle sweetness and a seed-coated crust, while good seed products are the boldest and sweetest of all. Dave's Killer Bread was built on the belief that second chances can change lives, because after spending 15 years in prison, not only did the guy with the guitar you see on every loaf turn his own life around, he's helping others to do the same. By hiring the best people for the job, regardless of their background, he's ensuring your mornings no longer taste like cardboard, your taste buds don't have to feel sedated, and your sandwiches can become superstars. Visit daveskillerbread.com to learn more and look for Dave's Killer Bread in the bread aisle of your favorite grocery store.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your favorite team from all 4 major sports leagues, including the NCAA, your team every single day. Make sure you hit that subscribe, hit the follow button, and leave a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. We appreciate all that love and support we get from our listeners Monday through Friday, 5 days a week. We are rolling with episodes here on the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Some upsetting news, though, coming out of the Carolina Hurricanes organization. Frederick Andersen, taking a step back, for serious reasons right now. Obviously, with some medical, medical things happening right now. I can't talk right now. This is brutal.
Out, Steele. I'm
trying to.
It's
but
all
scary
good,
situation for Frederick Andersen, who is dealing with blood clots. It seems like they sent out a message on social media platforms regarding the situation with Frederick Andersen right now and his medical stability as well.
Yeah,
but when that first got brought up, I think I don't want to misspeak or say anything incorrect, but I believe it was Chris Letang a few years ago who was dealing with some blood clots as well.
Yes, he was last season.
And the first thing that came to mind when you sent this to me was actually Chris Bosch when he was dealing with blood clots, and how that affected his career in the NBA. And that eventually ended up ending his career pretty much.
I think so. Yeah. And look, Steele, at the end of the day, you and I come on here and talk a lot about a lot of players. These guys are humans first, their husbands, their dads. This is important. And the statement here, I just wanted to read it very quickly. So it was during, quote, Don Waddell, president, general manager, during recent medical testing, discovered that Freddie Andersen had blood clotting issues that need to be immediately addressed. There's no current timetable for his return, but they are confident Freddie will be able to make a full recovery. That's always good to hear. Yeah. But it's also one of those things you almost have to say, even if you know for certain he is not. So I am really concerned about him, number one. And let's shift focus, though, because this is the fantasy show. Kotchetkov hasn't been called up yet. We know they're looking at Yaroslav Halak, but I looked at those quotes from Brindamore, Coach Rod Brindamore, talking about bringing Halak in on a PTO. Obviously, there's no value there for Halak in fantasy. We're not talking about that. But what's interesting here is Antii Raanta is going to be the number one now.
Yeah.
And if he struggles at all, Kotchetkov will be the next goalie that they run out there. And I just wanted to bring up the fact that you and I, and especially me and our boy Michael Amato, shout out to Michael Amato of Sportsnet, was very high on this player 2 years ago, Steele, not last year, 2 years ago. And already this year in the AHL, in 4 games, he's got a shutout, 3 wins, 940 save percentage almost, and a 1.60 goals against. He can get it done, but he's been a little bit inconsistent at the NHL level in his opportunities. He's looked great one week, and then the other night he's doing the Peter Mrazek backstroke in there. So I think they're obviously going to go to the veteran Raanta, who's earned it and who can be that guy who holds it down.
Yeah.
But if they struggle, Kotchetkov is going to get that look, but I think that's the clear takeaway here is Freddie is out. He is going to be out long-term. I have a feeling. That's my speculation, but he is out at least over the next few weeks. So you're going to have a look at some goaltending options here if Freddie was one of your guys. Off to a 4-1-0 start as well.
I think Kotchetkov will get an opportunity to see some ice time and get some starts for the Carolina Hurricanes, but I think he's going to be on a short leash.
Me too.
Honestly, ever since Michael Amato started talking about him, you and I were getting on the hype train. He was playing well, but somewhere along the way, shortly after we were hyping this goalie up, this kid up, he started to fall off the rails a little bit.
Sure.
And like you said, he just has not been consistent as well. He hasn't been consistent, at least in the NHL level, since we started bringing this up.
That's what matters.
And that's what matters. So
yeah.
I think right now, like you said, Antii Raanta is going to be getting the go-ahead. He will be the number one guy. He's proven that he can be that number one guy that the Hurricanes can rely on as well. He's only owned actually at 40% right now on Yahoo Fantasy Hockey League. So if he's out there in your league, he will be the number one. Go out and pick him up pretty much immediately if you can. And Kotchetkov, I think, will maybe get a couple of starts here and there. And if he proves that he can be a little bit more consistent with his game, maybe he gets a little bit more run out. But again, that leash is going to be on real tight, and he'll get reeled in pretty quick.
And I think, though, the other main thing for me here, aside from backing up what you're saying in terms of Kotchetkov's performance, especially this season, he hasn't even really seen a ton of shots. In 3 starts, he's allowed 11 goals against, a 6-piece against the Colorado Avalanche. Mind you, Seattle, Colorado, and Tampa Bay are 3 very good clubs. So it's not exactly like they threw this kid in there against some muffin situations. These are some of the toast clubs of the NHL. So that's a caveat. But at the end of the day, if Raanta struggles or does something else that's happened to him a number of times in his career, gets hurt as well, Steele, either way, you got to be taking a look at Kotchetkov because he will be that guy. So that's one of those situations. Let's not forget, too, this is a good Carolina club. So even if we think he's been inconsistent, he will immediately become fantasy relevant if he starts to get more looks, especially if, heaven forbid, another injury happens to these goalies. But this is what you got to keep your finger on the pulse, Steele, because you can jump on this situation. Carolina's going to get wins. How many? Time will tell.
Time will tell. And we're going to be hoping for some wins as well for big-time bets. That's what's coming up next. But this episode is also brought to you by the Sleeper app. A new NHL season brings us all sorts of possibilities. Tage Thompson could score 50 goals. The Vegas Golden Knights could hoist the Stanley Cup yet again. And you could win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on the Sleeper app, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our number one choice for daily fantasy sports and especially daily fantasy hockey. Because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. Fans can also play daily fantasy NFL, NBA, MLB, CFB on the Sleeper app, but we're always going to that NHL action. Flip and I, like Flip mentioned the other day, the group chat, team chat functionality on the app, connecting with everyone out there has been a tremendous factor in this app as well. And entries can be made in under a minute. All you have to do is pick studs like McDavid, Ovechkin, Crosby, or McKinnon, and if they will record more or less than their sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus, minus, and more on the app. To win a 100-time bet on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. You heard me, Locked On Fantasy Hockey fans. You can win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail your pick so you can start winning big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and location availability.
Hey everyone, Chris from Locked On Avalanche here. If you like using debit over credit, I just learned about something that's definitely a game changer. Discover Cashback Debit. It's a checking account that rewards everyone with cash back on everyday purchases, which means you can get cash back on NHL tickets or head-to-toe hockey gear to make this season a total win. Check out eligibility and terms at discover.com/cashbackdebit. Discover Bank, member FDIC.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Continue to hit that subscribe, leave a follow, and a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. We appreciate all that love and support you show us every single day. That's why we return the favor with the last segment of every episode, Big Time Bets. We're trying to return that favor, show some love all to you out there listening and tuning in with some winners on Big Time Bets. Flip. Boom. You got 3 picks tonight. This was a really strange board. There's 10 games on the board.
Yeah.
But very hard for both of us to figure out which 3 picks we like the most.
And very interestingly, and I think you and I were chatting about this off air, almost every single game, I would feel comfortable with saying it's a coin flip situation. Aside from maybe the Rangers at home, and Tampa on the road, I would say that I could see any team in these matchups winning. So with that said, maybe dial the bet back a little bit and have a little ride with a small parlay. Let me kick it off, Steele, with my first pick, if that's all right. Tampa Bay at Montreal. Montreal is playing with the tenacity and energy of its coach. And I really appreciate what Marty St. Louis is doing with this franchise. And I really do think, Steele, with a couple of moves, they're going to be a good, really good club in a couple of seasons. They're not there yet. I have questions about the blue line. I got questions about the goalies. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is I really wanted to hammer the Tampa Bay Lightning on the puck line here because I was really liking that spot. And when I look up the recent matchups between these two, Tampa has points in 9 of 10, including 7 of their last 10 wins against the Montreal Canadiens and 3 of their last 4 victories by 2 or more goals. So I'm a little bit wary, but I'm going to go because of how good Montreal has been this season. But I think Tampa Bay gets theirs against a team that they've dealt with. Tampa, puck line, minus 1.5 for a plus 140 odd. I'm also liking the odd there, Steele.
I like that pick as well. That's a good one to start off with on a very tricky Tuesday board.
Yeah.
This first pick, I'm a little hesitant, but it makes my top 3 for big time bets. I'm going to go to that Calgary Flames Nashville Predator game under 5.5 at plus 110 right now. 7 out of the last 8 games, 6 out of the last 8 games have been under the number. A lot of them have actually been under, a couple of them have been under 4.5. The average has been going under 5.5. So I like the under here at 5.5 plus 110. Okay. And things just get worse for Calgary. You know, this could be a game where it seems like they could, right the ship a little bit, but they've actually lost 7 of their last 8 games against the Nashville Predators. So I'm staying away from the puck line, staying away from the money line. I'm taking the Flames Predators under 5.5 at plus 110. Yeah. And for my second pick, I'm going to do the Sabres and Hurricanes over 6.5 at minus 122. High scoring game, high scoring talent on both sides. And the Sabres, are always seem to be in those high scoring games. So I like the over here.
That's a fact. That's a tough one for me. Also bold is this whole board. So like we just said it, I am going to have to dial the bet back heavy tonight for sure. Pittsburgh at Anaheim. It's one of those gut feelings, Steele. Pittsburgh's exploded for 10 goals the other night. Anaheim is on a heater scoring goals. To me, this just feels like an over. 5 out of the last 10 matchups have gone over, so there's not exactly a ton there. But how about this? 5 of Pittsburgh's last 6 trips to Anaheim have gone over the number. This one really is one of those gut picks for me, Steele, but I'm loving the angle. Ducks feeling it. Pens really feeling it. Give me 2 clubs. Give me 2 good clubs. Scoring, I'll take the over 6.5. And lock of the night. To me, this was the clear-cut one. I know the Red Wings are 7-4-1. I know they've started good. 8-2-1. The New York Rangers are a neat and tidy club, and they are a very difficult team to play against. And how about points in 8 of their last 10 against Detroit? And I was leaning to the under as well here, Steele. Under has gone under the total in 8 of the last 9 times Detroit has visited MSG. So that was the other one I was looking at. But lock of the night, minus 190. It's no good odds, so add it to a parlay. But I'm loving the Rangers at home on the money line to get it done.
Yeah, I was going to take the Rangers on the money line as well. Might still put them in a little bit of a parlay. But that over-under was scary to me. This could be one of those games where it gets out of hand and out of nowhere, you see the Rangers offense just absolutely surge with the Red Wings offense as well.
Dylan Larkin could also be out. He's questionable for Tuesday's game. Just throwing that out there.
So we'll have to wait and see what goes on in the lineup for the Detroit Red Wings. My lock of the night, it banged out for me last week, so I'm going back to it. Avalanche on the puck line against those New Jersey Devils at plus 134. Ooh. The Avalanche lost 2 in a row. They got shut out. I said on the show, I was like, they're going to come out with some heat. They're not going to lose again, and they're going to win by more than 2. They won 4-1 against the Blues. They got absolutely slapped around by the Vegas Golden Knights over the weekend, lost 7-0.
Yeah.
I'm going back to the well here. I'm coming forward again. They're back at home, and I'm saying this. Again, they're going to do puck line plus 134. They're not going to lose in that type of fashion again. And again, like we talked about, Devils are without two of their best players, probably their two best players,
Huge.
Nico Hischier and Jack Hughes.
So huge. I'm riding with that angle. Yeah, of course, teams can have those performances that they rally around these injuries. Your two number one centers, I'd like to do some deep research on how many teams down their number one and number two centers who are also that critical to the team's overall success. Something tells me the track record ain't that pretty. So I love the angles. I'm loving these bets, Steele, but honestly, I hope that let's have a really big week. I'm feeling it. Let's have one.
Let's do it, baby. Big week for big time bets. Let us all out. Let us know as well all of your bets that you're making out there. If you've won, if you've lost,
hit us in the DMs.
Hit us in the DMs. Let us know how it's going for you out there with the big time bets. And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Make sure you're tuning in Monday through Friday, 7:00 in the morning is when you can find our episodes. And again, thank you so much for tuning in for today's episode with Flip and I. Have a great day out there. Good luck with all your big time bets. And we shall see you back here again tomorrow.
Peace.
JamesAllen.com is the online destination to easily design a customized engagement ring and save up to 50% compared to traditional stores. You pick a diamond, whether it's lab-created or earth-created, James Allen has over 200,000 conflict-free stones. Then you pick your ring setting and metal. And if you need some help, they have real-time diamond consultations available, where an expert can walk you through it all. Get 25% off your order at JamesAllen.com, code LOCKEDON. That's JamesAllen.com, code LOCKEDON.